writing the show. So you're the producer of the show.
Yes.
What made you want to do Superman's grandpa?
The decision to sort of go back, I think, 2 generations was to sort of allow us to sort of explore a corner of the DC universe that is relatively unexplored, and to kind of get into that part of the. There's obviously a lot of Superman mythology, but and there's a bit known about Jor-El and the kind of birth of Superman in that way, but to sort of go back another generation, I think it just gives us a little more freedom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The one of the books that we've probably looked at the most is John Byrne's The World of Krypton, which I think was like from the 70s, I want to say. We used that a fair bit, but there's not like one book that we've kind of drawn on, more than any other. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and even outside of Superman, things like Omega Man, I think is a kind of a big influence on this series. I think for the kind of the tone in a lot of ways, but the tone of that book, which I love to death, and I think it fits what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm.
We got to hear a special name in the trailer and footage, a message being said to Kal-El. How does that work? Is that a flash forward of him?
Well, that message. Well, I'll go. I'll answer that question by sort of talking about something else in a way, which I think is pretty exciting. One of the things that we're all really excited about on this show is, I think people have an expectation of Krypton as being, it's a prequel, and we know how this show's going to end. The planet's going to explode, and But what we're doing is challenging that expectation. We have a kind of a way into the show where, the story is there is a conspiracy that we will kind of uncover where, people from the here and now, from Earth, 2017, have conspired to prevent Superman's birth back in 200 years ago. So it means that, like in the way JJ's Star Trek or the Terminator, I guess, movies, it's a way of kind of like of upending the history and meaning that we don't know what the ending is going to be yet. We change time, and now anything can kind of happen. So that's I think an exciting kind of way into the show.
So is there a possibility you're going to move away from kind of canon at some point, or are you allowed to do? You're saying that anything could happen. Yeah. Is anything going to happen, or you've got to stick to the script as it's gone forward?
We don't. No, we don't have to. Look, we're obviously, we feel, really honoured, and we're very respectful of what this is. We understand that it's such an important and beloved show, character and world, and so we want to respect that and not just kind of just throw it out for the sake of it. We want to deepen the existing mythology. We want to kind of expand upon it, and where it works, we want to kind of subvert the expectations.
Everything looks amazing. Was there, I guess, a bigger budget or more attention paid because of being a bigger property?
Well, I think just because of the nature of the show, it's set on Krypton. It's an alien world. Everything's a build or a visual effect. We can't shoot anything on location, which means, it's going to have a budget because of that. I think we're all pretty proud of the look of the show. It looks really cinematic. It feels epic, and it's really fun to be able to get in there and do that kind of world building where you get to kind of talk about the design of Krypton or Candor City. These things I've been reading about since I was a kid, and to sort of be able to play in that world, it's super exciting.
If we talk about the position of the show, we look at our own Flash and so forth, we said they're part of one universe. Would you say the show is an individual show on its own, or is it part of a universe?
I'd say it's more of a show that's on its own. It's not part of the Arrowverse, and it's not part of the DCEU. It's adjacent, I guess, to both of those, but just by virtue of the fact that it is on an alien planet and it is set 200 years ago, it doesn't really fit with those other, other universes. But who knows? Maybe this will be the start of another universe or section of the DC world. Who knows? Maybe that'd be cool.
Some other characters, since we basically know the guy. What else can you tell us about?
Well, I wish I could tell you more. And get into some of the specifics, but we have a number of, quite a few DC characters, and characters that you wouldn't normally associate, I guess, with, when you think about Krypton, you probably wouldn't associate some of these characters, but because of that idea of being able to, of time travel, it just opens it up. It opens up all the possibilities where, anything can happen and anyone can sort of be involved. So there's a lot of, I think, characters that people are going to get really excited about that we'll see throughout the series.
Will you announce any soon?
I don't know. I'll see what Jeff Johns is prepared to say at our panel today, and I'll take my lead from him. Yeah. But I mean, look, I guess I can talk about beyond that. The character of Segal. I think I said earlier, he's much more rough and tumble, and he'll sort of grow into. He doesn't start out like Superman. He's got quite a journey to take. He has a mentor, his grandfather Val-El, who is sort of absent for a while and has a lot of work to do to kind of to sort of help shape Seg and put him in touch with the legacy of the House of El and everything that the symbol that we all know, what it kind of stands for and what it represents. Seg's really disconnected from that, and he needs to learn what that means and learn what it means to be a part of the House of El and to learn the power of that symbol and how to sort of use it responsibly.
Guys, hi.
Looking pretty super.
Thanks, man. Yeah, trying.
What can you tell us about playing an icon's heritage?
Yeah, man, it's such an honor and a privilege. I've loved comics since I was a kid. Still buy comics, still read comics. So to be a part of this and this incredible legacy and get to play someone who's growing into that symbol and is part of why that symbol comes to mean what it does is a privilege, an honor. Yeah.
Did you go back and visit all the Superman? Have you gone back to look at this sort of Superman? Have you tried to follow the linear path down to any one of the future Supermans that will be following you?
I think the Superman who is most closely resonates with me is Jeff Johns' interpretation of Superman in the comic books, and it's great because we have Jeff working with us on the show, and I got to meet him last night. He's epic. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of research for this, and I've always been a Superman fan. Superman, no joke, has always been my favorite superhero. So I've been researching for this role since I could read. Hopefully I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
So, Krypton doesn't have our yellow sun.
No.
So, Seg is going to be more of just a street brawler.
Yeah, he's much more of a street level guy. He's a scrapper and a hustler, and like you said, he has no yellow sun, so no powers, and the tactics he has to use are different. He has an intuitive brilliance for all things technological. The House of El was once a great house of scientists, and at a very young age he was taught by his grandfather Val-El about the wonders of science and the importance of searching for the truth at all costs, and trying to meet any problem head on. And so those are the things he carries forward with him in his methods.
Excellent.
Yeah.
In the trailer footage, we got to see Superman bleed, which is always a big, well, not Superman, but the an L family bleed on that insignia. How does that? I guess does the blood enter into the science of the story? Is there a bloodline?
Yeah, I can't tell you everything, obviously, but I think the symbolism of that moment is deeply powerful. This is a story about sacrifice, and more importantly, this is a story about shades of grey. There are no clear-cut heroes and villains, and people have to make morally ambiguous choices, and not everyone wins all the time. So blood will be shed to make sure that symbol means what it means. Yeah, man. It's been a blast. Like I loved it. I've been doing a lot of boxing and Muay Thai and MMA. So for me, I knew that I didn't want to look like Henry Cavill or Chris Hemsworth, because those guys are playing superhumans and I'm playing a brawler. So when it was looking at the body, it was more like Conor McGregor or a middleweight boxer or something like that. So someone who doesn't have a huge amount of resources available to him, but is a fighter. Everything he knows about fighting is from hard-earned experience. So I've been, boxing, doing some sort of combat sport, hour a day, and then an hour and a half of lifting in the afternoon as well. So 2.5 hours a day, 6 days a week, and just not eating anything fun. Yeah. But it's been fun. I love engaging physically with the role. Yeah.
What kind of costumes does clothing does Krypton? Is it similar to Earth, or?
So we have a whole team of incredible designers and builders and concept artists, and the cool thing is that everything is so specific and so well detailed, and everything serves purpose. Every prop that you see, even if it's just in the background, there's a meaning to it. There's a meaning to all of it. This society we're trying to build is incredibly fleshed out and incredibly real, and it has to feel that way, because we want you guys to feel immersed. We want the fans to feel immersed. It's an incredibly cinematic experience that we're trying to build here. So the costumes are absolutely amazing. Yeah.
You were saying Superman is your favourite character.
Yeah, man.
What's your favourite iteration of Superman?
Just the comic books, really. Like anything that Jeff Johns writes, I think that's the most pure iteration of who he is. That despite the fact that he is immensely powerful, it's that goodness and that sense of humanism, and that we can all be Supermen if we just believe in it and if we're good to each other. That's the best thing about Superman, man. Is he always believes in the good in us, and he'll never give up. That's awesome. That's a really powerful message for anyone to read. Yeah.
Well, and you said that on Krypton making people have to make morally ambiguous decisions, and that's almost a juxtaposition
Yeah,
to the
very much so.
morality of Superman. How do you play that?
Yeah, the thing is, it's not a fully formed thing, and the thing is, Seg is up against so much and has so little at his disposal, and lives hang in the balance, and the thing is, you don't always win, and sometimes, even when you do, it's at a great cost. And as I said before, the society he lives in is harsher, and he is rougher around the edges and is harder, and he's all right with sacrifice,
How do you prepare for that kind of role? I mean, physically, you gave us your workout.
Yeah.
What's your process to get into the head of a guy whose house has fallen?
Yeah. Well, we're very lucky to have incredible writers. Everything they send to me, I gobble up. And then going back to the comic books, not necessarily always Superman, but like Omega Men's been brilliant. Going back to V for Vendetta, just sort of like more like street level, shades of grey, flawed heroes. I went back and watched Blade Runner, the final cut, Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, reading 1984. Just stuff like that, like just little, like not necessarily that all of those things will show up in the show. It's just little things that I can draw from. Yeah.
And what would be the biggest threat that's, or I guess more specific threat rather than the destruction of Krypton? But throughout, I guess, the season, what are you facing head on?
Well, I think that the main arc of the whole story is how do we earn that symbol? How does that come to mean hope? That's what the fight is. And that is an epic conflict that has both internal and external threats to Seg, and he has to learn to fill that role. Yeah, that's the main journey for Seg.
Is there like another character who is, I guess, would be a villain?
Yeah,
but not
nice try.
quite a villain?
Nice try. Yeah. No, I can't say a thing, but there will be all sorts of characters from all across DC Universe who both help and hinder Seg in his efforts. And ones that you're going to be familiar with who you might not necessarily expect. So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So maybe you can spill on those then. No. Okay.
You do? What? This guy? They let you in the country? They let me in the country? I like the beard, man. Looks good. Yeah. Canadians. Everywhere. Everywhere.
But they're so polite.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. It's our fault. Sorry about that.
So I guess how does Krypton fall as a family drama with family ties as opposed to a political drama?
It's like an action-packed Waltons. Good night, Jor-El. Good night. Just pulling back out of the bottled city. Good night, Mon-El. Good night. I would watch that. It's like, wow, they really put us to sleep this time. Wow, not one fight, nothing. It is about family. It is, to me, look, one thing I believe, having done so much of this genre stuff, people always show up for that big, high concept idea. Like, oh my god, they found a relic in the desert that flushes sideways and takes MacGyver there. But they don't stay unless they fall in love with those characters and feel a sense of identification. It's always job one, is to make you feel the sort of dysfunctional family aspect of a show. And you can stunt it up with all sorts of wild names, but if you don't feel things for Seg, feel what he's going through and believe in his struggle, the show goes DOA. So building Krypton is the coolest thing I've ever done. Everything is a vis effect or a build. Every choice, every down to like the what weird eggs do they eat? Like that stuff is so fun. And you can really go right up your own nose thinking, I'm just gonna build things. But don't forget, it's a story about people. The best sci-fi is about now. It's about the human condition. It's about telling stories you need to be told without saying eat your vegetables, So I think that we're excited about the fact that Krypton lets us do all that. Lets us tell human stories against a big scope in an IP that everybody knows.
So you can't give away too many characters, but we're going to see familiar houses of Krypton.
Yes. We'll definitely see the House of El. There's the House of Zod.
Are they at conflict, at odds, even 200 years ago?
Well, the cool thing about this age of a Kryptonian evolution, of where its civilization is at, is it is at a place where, because they're living in a harsh realm, the planet is difficult to live on. Every city is domed. There's a thin band of survivable land, because you've got a totally locked planet, fire and ice. We're not being sued by George Martin. It's okay. And so you have this incredibly tense situation where, look, population control of reproductive rights, genetic engineering for the betterment of all. Is it a survival tactic, a control tactic, some sort of theocratic conspiracy? And in the midst of that, the House of El, which is one of the great venerable houses, falls from grace in the beginning of our first episode. And so Seg and his family grow up in what's called the Rankless District, which is like where the shamed, or the law-breaking, misbegotten folks of Kandor City are forced to exist. And it's not shiny and not utopian, and it's a rough existence. It'll feel more like the streets of Cairo than the utopian metropolis, So we start in there. And so telling the story of how Superman's belief in truth and justice did not just come from Ma and Pa Kent, but that it came from the struggle his ancestors underwent. That despite their disadvantages in life, they fought against tyranny, totalitarianism, they fought for truth and justice, and they fought for the fate of their planet and the fate of the greatest hero who ever lived. And I think a wonderful allegory is that kind of greatest generation of like very ordinary people who were brilliant and smart and brave, but they came out of the Dust Bowl of America, fought World War II, did incredible things. Like crazy. They jumped out of planes and then shot at Nazis and marched through things and then killed Hitler. Then they came back home, opened a hardware store and said, here, you do the rest. And you're like, what did you do? And it's like, nah, don't worry, I'm just selling nails. And you're like, wait a minute, I want to hear those stories. Who are the guys that kind of teed up Superman and gave him that? That's what I want to feel. And I think Krypton gives us that in a really big way.
Next question.
Do you have an idea in your mind of what success looks like in certain parts of, say, season?
Just a garage of Porsches. Oh, you mean the show? Oh yeah, Seg's garage of Porsches. I'm contractually not allowed to. They've said, please do not ever use your humor in the following way. No, humor's a big part of it. I think, look, as a kid going to see the Donner films, like you're walking, you're there at a birthday party. It's like, you see the poster, they're going to believe a man can fly. And you're like, yay! I'm like that now. And that was a very funny movie. I mean, have you guys gone back and watched it? I mean, aside from the tinfoil, smock, that and the weird Brando, I'm so tanned, and it's so white, but I'm so tanned. It's freaked up, but it's funny as hell. And Christopher Reeve is a comedy genius, so humor is a big deal. Honest to God, Cam Cuff is also just quick. That's the thing. That's one of the reasons we cast him, is that it's easy to get an actor who's like, yes, I can emote and I can blah blah blah, but he's quick with the jokes. He's just loose, and I think. I've heard Vince Gilligan talk about why Bryan Cranston is because he can do the travel from Walter White, but he can also be like the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, and he's like Watley on Seinfeld. Like, I think Cam Cuff's that he's got that bandwidth, and we want to use it because if it's just a dark dirge about a planet fighting to stay alive, it's gonna get really sad quick. We want it to be fun. So, good question.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.